Well, the joint meeting of the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen for Thursday, May 4th, 2023 to order. Before I turn it over to the Board of Selectmen, I'll get my required reading out of the way. This meeting's being recorded. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Board of Selectmen.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it. This is a joint meeting, as you said, and take a roll call.
I'm Leonard Holland, president. Everyone now present.
And Peter Karen, present.
Do we need a roll call?
Yes,
Because
no, it's all here, so.
Okay. All right, well, pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic. One nation under God.
All right, so right off the bat, we'll jump a little bit out of order and hit the 4 items that affect us and then go to the transfer station and then to the articles. But we'll start with the people that made their way here and want to go home. We've got the Agricultural Commission.
This year's budget, what we're asking for is $500. The Briggs Garden. We need 1,000 for, we're gonna be doing some literature at the elementary school and handouts. That's what our town was, what we're all about and what we're doing in the town. And sorry for being so late, but we've been busy with working on Board of Health regulations with livestock. Budget got kind of quick that.
So that's a decrease of 1195 from last year's budget. Everybody knows where the garden is. Jake, do you know where the garden is?
No.
On the other side of town hall.
Okay.
Do they ever change the name?
Yes, yeah, I believe that happened in the fall by Janet.
What did he ask? The name was officially changed 3 times. So the name of the garden is the James Briggs Historic Garden. I can come up if you guys have any.
179.
Thank you.
The name.
Yeah.
Right,
Any questions on
No.
79? Take a motion.
So well, on our sheets, it's the,
Yeah,
are we gonna change the budget?
from 500 to 15.
1,500?
1,500.
Yes. I make
Go ahead.
a motion, we vote to approve Department 179's budget in the amount of $1,500 as presented by the representatives.
Seconded?
Serena, do you need a breakout by line?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it. You guys want to hit on that too?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve agricultural budget request of $1,500 in line item 139.
179?
179.
179.
The whole second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Karen, said aye.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night, guys.
All right, the next item for us. There's a department that wants to make a last minute change. And I think since he's here, we'll let him make his point.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
And I'm sorry about that. I mean, obviously of all departments to be running in at the last minute, it is me. But I did, so I did realize in the government yesterday, we belong to the Southeast Regional Protection Group called Sausage. And they handle a lot of our highway material procurement for us, our office supplies and cleaning supplies. They have a $4,100 a year subscription that I inadvertently did not include in my budget proposal. So I'm proposing to increase my dues and line, up from 3545 to 7645 to include the annual dues, and $4,100 for sausage. I apologize.
Go ahead.
What will that change the total be to?
The total would be changed to, in the town administrator's budget with my personnel and expenses to a total bottom line of $180,971.
70.
Yes,
180971.
yes.
24.
And line item
5730.
5730. The very last line item in my budget.
Questions on that request? Board of Selectmen, any questions you guys?
No, you had already explained it to us, so we're all set.
Okay, so take a motion to amend the 124.
Take a motion to amend FinCom recommendation for Department 124 from $176,871 to $180,971.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, guys have it. You guys,
I will make a motion to amend the town administrator's budget, part 124. 176,871 to $180,971.
Second that.
This motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Katie Cameron's an aye.
Thank you.
Over to having.
so, and I believe there's only two departments that we had a variance between what we recommended versus what you guys had.
Okay.
And it's the moderator and FinCom. In both cases, we recommended keeping it the same as last year based on prior practice between those two positions. Moderator, you guys want to give him $10? I honestly don't care. But for FinCom, I think we've kept it that way for a long time, and I think it should continue to be at a level.
Okay.
I always hate when people give themselves raises, so. Like,
Two things on that. No disrespect. It's the position. Not the person. In the case of the moderator. Does the board submit a budget to you or?
No, we, no, we started this process back in the winter before the election.
Yeah, prior.
So no,
So he hasn't weighed in on this.
no. Not to me anyways, no.
If he hasn't weighed in, I would say, don't go to. It's $10.
yeah,
I don't think it's gonna make or break him.
I think the discussion centered around on Tuesday around the fact that people do this job not for the $10, right? So.
Well, it's a stipend, it's not wages.
Right,
Yeah.
but even so, there's,
That's involved in traveling and.
Yeah.
Whatever he or she happens to do.
Right.
So, it's $250 for meeting, right? He does 2 meetings.
yeah.
typically, yeah.
So, yeah, you guys want to make your motion?
So we recommended 500,
Okay.
looking at level.
Yeah.
And then the same for FinCom, we recommended keeping it at 35.95.
Okay. Well, we have no issues with that, right? Okay. So you want to make a motion?
Yes. I will make a motion to amend the Board of Selectmen recommendation for Department 114 of moderator to reduce it from $510 to $500.
Want to second that?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. And what's the-
131.
It's 4,000. So
Up the total, yeah, we kept the wages at 3,595. So
the
the
total would be.
total budget would be 4,000.
With that. I will make a motion to amend the board selecting recommendation. $4,071.90. For Department 131 Finance Committee. To the new number of $4,000.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so we'll move on to the articles.
Can we just, make one pit stop on the way?
Sure.
The defense station budget, the board of selectmen, are we still? Because it's a new department, like it was left off the agenda.
Yeah.
But as we review. Prior, we're separating out, and we have to go separate out the info station from the solid waste budget. And because now Ian's interested for the highway department, we're going to assume those budgetary responsibilities. So, there's a recommendation of $96,516.73. That also includes the new attendant and laborer. Flat labor, we are gonna be hiring as well, so that we just need a selectman recommendation on that.
We raised the wages to make it more attractive. As well as change the hours of the operation from Tuesday and Saturday to a Friday and a Saturday. Again, make it more attractive to somebody who want to do this. Doesn't break up their week. The increase is in wages is one, to attract, and two, to offset the cost of overtime that we're going to be spending with the town employee doing.
We've approved it, so just you guys, yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know how far you.
Yeah, we got through everything.
960.
435. 435.
And 96,516, 73. Yeah.
6.
I'm sorry.
96,516.
Okay.
6517.
0.73.
That would be the total for the transfer station budget.
Yes, sir.
And. Oh, okay, so we're amending it from 96,560.
Oh, no, there's no amendment. It's you, the Board of Selectmen haven't even recommended yet.
I will make a motion. Selectman recommendation. For Department 435 transfer station, $96,516.73.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And Peter Karen is an aye.
Would I be able to just make one more pit stop?
Sure can.
I apologize, if we go back to the selectmen budget, actually, like Serena reminded me, that, there was a recommendation made to the FinCom on Tuesday night to include a salary reserve in the selectmen budget for the Calico Union.
Right.
And, yeah, but Serena reminded me thankfully that we don't yet have a Board of Selectmen recommendation on that. So it's a proposed addition of $20,000. It's salary reserve to the Board of Selectmen budget.
Oh,
It does.
okay. So it'll be the 121, 340? Oh,
The total bottom line for the selectmen's budget with the salary reserve of 20,000 would be $192,980.66.
we didn't make a recommendation prior to, did we?
You did, so it will be amending the recommendation.
Okay,
Just having that 20,000.
yeah, no, I see. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to amend the Board of Selectmen budget, Department 122, from the original number of $225.66 to $192,980.66.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
Thank you.
No more pit stops.
You got us here, Mike. I mean, come on.
All right, so we will just go down in the order that the spreadsheet's in. The first one is Article 3 for prior year invoices. The sheet that I've got, Mike, has set 12/7/24.
There was another one added, bringing the grand total up to $14,493.95. One of the things we've, these numbers, one of projects or priorities, over the last few months was cleaning up the police detail fund, that has been included as like a management letter comment in our audits and financial statements for the last 3 years. We've never, that account has never been fully reconciled. So I'm fully reconciling it, thankfully. We had discovered like areas with regards to police details where bills and receivables hadn't been fully reconciled or like actually paid it all before. So like that is actually, so that is the reason. And addressing our management letter comments, Serena and Colleen and the treasurer's office identified areas of bills that hadn't been reconciled back against the police detail fund. Thankfully, we just actually got, so in our FY20, in our FY22 management letter, that comment has now dropped off. So which is great. So, and this is part of the effort to clean everything up.
So each different line on that, is that a different year?
No,
Just different, just the way it's,
and we actually combined them. I know there was a few lines, police detail, and we just combined it all into one.
okay.
Mhm.
That other, the additional money is additional detail.
Yeah, we did one more run maybe 2 days ago, and there was like 3 more invoices that got added to that total.
Okay. And the National Grid just missed.
That was at the end of last year. Just a timing thing, that bill didn't actually come in before the 15th of July.
Any questions on?
No,
Bills are due.
Recommendation?
So yeah, like one of the things too, like, I mean, I just want to comment, I mean, so yeah, as we know, doing this is not ideal. And it's frankly doesn't have the best look. And our offices, the police chief, we all agree that basically this is like one time only clean house, clean up everything. So and then going forward, like we have a much higher bar, much stricter standards. So I just want to make that clear.
Okay.
I mean, so you're doing this is not.
Yeah, the more you have to point out to town meeting, then,
Yeah, that we hadn't paid our bills.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the recommendation is to pay those out of the prior year bills out of free cash, which is typical. So if there are no other questions,
Make a motion that the finance committee recommends the transfer from free cash in the amount of $14,493.95 to pay for prior year invoices.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it?
14,493.95. Oh, that's. This hasn't been updated. Oh, sorry.
Here, you want us to, we'll turn over to you after each one.
Sure.
So we'll turn it.
You want to make a recommendation?
Yes, but wait a minute. So that is Article 3. correct?
Article 3.
I would like to make a motion to appropriate. There'll be raising.
No, this is actually, your motion is for the Board of Selectmen to recommend that.
Board of Selectmen recommend. The prior year invoices for the summer, $14,493.95.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I,
And Peter Karen's an aye.
We'll move on to Article 12. Looking at the warrant, or the draft warrant, it's on page 15. You guys want to explain this one?
Sure, so when I was closing the books, the shared fund had been negative since the close of 2021. And there's, no other revenue coming in for that. So I was just hoping to take it off the books so it doesn't continue to deduct from our free cash certification when I go to close fiscal year 23. And that's the same for complete streets. And then the flexible spending and the OBRA are actually liability accounts that closed out negative in FY 23. So I'm gonna do a little bit more research on those. But I'm thinking that there still will be in the negative at the end of the close of fiscal year 23.
Okay,
So it's really just housekeeping
Housekeeping.
to get the negative accounts off the books. So they will not deduct from our free cash in the future.
yeah, either we take care of it now through free cash, or we've got to continue to put it on our reconciliation and they remove it anyway.
Yeah, and
That'd be a double whammy, right?
it is a double, yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
then-
free cash and then our recap.
And then we met with Bill Foyle from DOR earlier this week or last
Last
week. And he noticed that as well, that it had been on the free cash for 2 years now. So he also suggested to bring it up.
Okay. And if in between now and town meeting, you find that those other two can be reduced, we can always adjust that at that point, right? Yeah.
And this would be taken out of free cash?
The recommendation is out of free cash for this. Which would be where it would hit on the recap.
Okay.
Any questions on that? Board of Selectmen, you guys have any questions on that?
I think we're all set. Serena, you should explain what the shared streets are and then the complete streets.
So those were the names of the funds. So it's within, it was kind of grouped in with chapter 90. Tom Fred might be able to explain the differences between those a little bit more, because I'm not really familiar with it being two different ones either. I'm used to it just being together.
So we got 2 grants, one in FY 20. I'm sorry, one in calendar year 2020 and one at the end of actually in the middle of 2021. They actually went in the same like in the same pool money. So I would imagine one of the reasons why like if there was a deficit at first, when we got the second tranche of grant funding. So we didn't, like everything closed out in the positive there. And so like it basically masked, so it could have masked any issue. So yes, so that existed. And but yeah, there were two grants, one for, I want to say at the high 100s, the second one around 120, that both grants have been implemented and closed out.
Have no other questions?
Take a motion.
Yeah, take a motion to recommend the moving of free cash from the amount of $11,609 to pay the appropriate bills as included in Article 12.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it?
I'll make a motion to $11,609. Out of free cash into the deficit account.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Peter Karen's an aye.
Do you need a recommendation from us on 13, the CPC?
No, that's just strictly a CPC recommendation.
Okay.
Actually 13 and 14 are just strictly CPC recommendations.
Okay. And then,
Yes.
okay, so our next article then is 15, which is a transfer. The DR's 22 budget was, their audit was complete and the state gave them their E&D, which is similar to the cash.
Mhm.
They have to return to us Article 15.
Yes,
I'm showing it's.
It's wrong. It's
right. That's where the funding's coming from, the E and D for that public library.
Yeah,
just 15.
Yeah, 50.
what do you guys have for 15?
Money that he's talking about was then.
404,000.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I'm just explaining where it's coming from. So E and D was certified, it was in excess of 5%, so they're returning 504,000 in total to us. Out of that 504,000, the suggestion was to take 404 of it and apply it towards the library, as it is in essence a 23 fiscal year 23 bill that we've already paid. And then additionally, when we get down to 23, another 100 back to the school for security and access controls, but we'll get to that one.
So this is an influx of cash from outside and we're just going to appropriate it accordingly.
Use it in the same year, right? That it was raised and appropriated.
Yeah,
That's going to need to be explained.
see, like, it's technically not an influx, it's sort of funding that has already been approved, it's been raised and appropriated. So at this point, it's just a transfer because the DR assessment has already been offset by the same in the current fiscal year.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, the bills from DR are coming in $504,000 less than what we have raised and appropriated.
Okay. Awesome.
Does anyone have any questions on that? You guys?
This might be a silly question. I'm new to this, but so that money came to the school. Why doesn't it go back to the school? Can it not take it back? I gotta understand.
Yeah, so free cash is when we have excess, it goes to free cash.
Mhm.
When they have free cash, it goes to E and D. And the state only allows them to keep a maximum of 5% of their budget. And anything in excess of 5%, they've got to return back to the towns. So that's our portion of their excess that they're returning back to us.
Thank you.
And then, so we as a town have already raised and appropriated that amount. So it's basically now up to us to determine what do we do with that money? Which is to pay for current year expenses, which is when we raised and appropriated those said funds.
Thank you.
I do have one more question. That was quite a bit in E and D to come back. So this year with the education budget,
Yes.
it looked very trim.
It is.
So we should not be having that great in excess.
No, so what happened was the 22 E and D was actually the result of FY 21's E and D being certified so late.
Ah.
So that was certified in June of last year.
Right, they were very late.
And it was certified, the under 5%. Basically, DR had no ability to treat it as free cash before it closed out again, so it made them go over. So yeah, so we don't,
I got you.
yeah, like we expect these past 2 years of E and D over the 5% really to be complete anomalies.
Mhm.
Knock on wood, they at least appear to be on the right track.
They,
Getting everything.
yeah.
Right, they
on
had
time.
problems with getting paperwork in. on
Yeah, they
time.
talked about
Yeah.
that for years. Yeah, like the ACA filing penalties and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Didn't know.
Any other questions?
No, we're all set on everything. Thank you.
We'll take a motion on our side.
I'll make a motion that the finance committee recommends the transfer of $404,000 from available funds to set appropriation for the Dayton Public Library building and property improvements.
Wording wise, is that,
Yes.
okay. We've got motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion. Selectmen recommendation will be to transfer the sum $404,000 available funds to the Article 15 to the 207 Main Street. Cost of $401,000. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
On to Article 16. To pay for the second year lease payment of a fire truck that we did the first year, I think it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And
It's been nice without the payment.
yeah, it was a nice break. Fingers crossed we get it before.
Or the lease is up, yeah.
Yep. The cost of that is $106,146 and $146.76. And the recommendation is for it to come out of free cash. Any questions on that?
So this is year 2 of a 7-year lease on a truck that we still have not received.
It's been in construction and
Okay.
yeah, he thinks that they're gonna get it before this year ends.
Yes, so we already paid, so obviously we paid the first, but the second payment is gonna become due when we already have it.
Gotcha.
So a second payment won't be made until we actually is driving around town.
Okay, cool.
Questions, Board of Selectmen, any questions?
We don't have any questions. Thank you.
Take a motion.
Motion that the finance committee recommends the transfer from free cash in the amount of $106,146.76 for the second of 7 lease payments on the fire engine as detailed in Article 16.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Board of Selectmen.
I'll make a motion to transfer to free cash the sum of $106,146.76 for Article 16. Second 7-year lease payment. The fire engine.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry. It's from
Yeah,
free cash.
yeah, from free cash, not to.
Right.
Second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Peter Karen's an aye.
Article 17. Just for background, last year we approved $122,000 a year for a 3-year lease on an ambulance. And it looks like the same thing, it was a delay and the cost then came in higher. It's a total of 145,533.06. So this article would increase the payment to the correct amount for the first year. And the recommendation is that it come out of the ambulance fund.
Oh, so the first payment wasn't made.
Has not been made. And we don't have that yet either, right?
No, and again, the price change, the price that we. To change before the ambulance began to be manufacturing, so that hasn't held up the manufacturing, we just know when our first payment is due. So it's in the amount of 145,000 now, rather than 122.
So the order was already in and they can change the amount once the order's in?
They changed it between the time that we got the quote and the order was placed, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is coming out of free cash as well.
No, this would come out of the ambulance fund.
Oh, okay.
The ambulance fund, we charge when the ambulance makes. a run, we charge.
Yeah.
No questions, we'll take a motion.
Motion that the finance committee recommends the transfer of $23,533.06 from the ambulance fund to cover the increased lease payment on the new ambulance as detailed in Article 17.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it?
I will make a motion to transfer from the ambulance fund $23,533.06 to the first 3-year lease payment increase on the ambulance in Article 17.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
Article 18 is payment of year 4 of a 5-year lease for the sweeper in the amount of $50,561.92. And that's recommended to come from free cash.
Yes.
We have any.
Yes, we do. We have physical, yes.
Yeah, this one we have.
It's real, it's a real thing, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I noticed my street was swept.
That's great.
You can't make it fun, you go crazy.
Yeah, both the ambulance and the fire truck are gonna need to be parked outside of the next town meeting that they're there, so everybody knows.
Any questions on that?
Actually, since we have Mr. Ferry here and we're coming year 4, this is year 4, so next year is going to be year 5. What's after year 5? What are we doing? Is there a residual amount to purchase it or?
It'd be paid in full.
Yeah.
So these are lease to buy as opposed to just lease purchase as opposed to. Yeah, no, I know. I just wanted to make sure that they were lease purchase as opposed to just straight out lease. I think it might be important for us to put that into the warrant when we talk about these things so that folks know that we're not, it's not like your typical car lease where at the end of the term, you either have to pay a residual value or you're turning it in.
You're paying, it's a good point. You're paying that just to borrow it. You better off just going out the job.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good point.
That's a good point.
You know, those excess miles that Tom would drive.
Yeah. Yeah, 25 cents a mile.
You go real fast in those street sweepers too.
Any other questions on that? Take a motion. We had a motion? No,
No.
done the motion yet.
Yeah, take a motion to recommend moving the amount of $50,000 $561.92 out of free cash to pay forth the fourth payment of a 5-year lease on the street sweeper as described in Article 18.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's have it.
I'll make a motion to transfer $50,561.92 free cash to the fourth year of a 5-year lease agreement for the town sweeper as noted in Article 18.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
Article 19. This is broken out from the regular raise and appropriate articles, mainly because it's not something that should be continuing. It should be hopefully, fingers crossed, a one-time shot. But the planning board has been named as defendants in a couple of lawsuits. And the request is to raise and appropriate $50,000 to cover those costs.
That's the Dayton Woods group, Forest Hills group. Sorry, Forest Hills group.
Will that be raise and appropriate or from free cash?
So that would be from raise and appropriate.
I have another question. You said the amount is 50,000. You
Yes.
said there were a couple of complaints against filed with the planning.
Possibly 3 lawsuits.
The 3 now, so what we've actually done based on the third is, we have broadened the wording of that article because the article as originally proposed, it just included 1 lawsuit. We have broadened, so, the article would now read to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and or grant from available funds, the sum of $50,000 to be expended by the planning board for legal and related expenses regarding complaints filed by DI Trust versus the planning board, town of Dayton and relevant town officials. So, I mean, one of the things if those complaints are ever amended and changed to include anyone else, we want that, we want those funds to be able to cover however the complaint may or may not be updated in the future.
Do we have any insight into, do we think three's it? Is there more coming down? I know that last we met a couple times and it was like, oh, there's another one, there's another one.
It's impossible to predict. I mean, we can't predict the strategy of the plaintiffs. Yeah.
Now, do these all relate to the same project? Okay.
One of the things that Mike shared was that the attorneys aren't going to try and combine the cases, which should save the town some money.
That's good. Okay.
So this money is just for the cases involving the industrial.
Yes.
So if there are any additional lawsuits with other parties, where do we get the money?
It would either have to come from their professional and technical, the planning board's professional and technical, or it would come from the reserve fund.
So like all the town council. I like all the town council budget as well. We work. Like I work very closely with Carrie today to make sure we're so all aware and we're so anticipating and projecting those costs very carefully. So strategically. But the big. But in terms of the strategic expenses, we know we really need to be prepared for and have funded now. I like related to the forest sales.
And do we think that this is something that, as we all know, the legal battles can be long and ongoing? Do we think this is something that will wrap this fiscal, or do you think it'll bleed into, 25?
It can bleed into 25. It's impossible to predict the timeline. So that's another reason why we would go with a warrant article rather than operational, then have to raise it again, have a closeout and raise it again. So a warrant article has the ability to travel over, so in up to 3 fiscal years.
Okay, that's why I asked.
Our first 40B is still litigation. That was 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah.
My only concern with the article itself is that we actually name the complainant. I mean, why not just leave it as any case brought against the planning board as what I think is what Selectman Hull is referring to. And that gives us the flexibility for anything that comes in.
Yeah.
And I know, you know, like you said, Mike, you know, you and Carrie have been working hand in hand to keep to kind of project what those costs are. And this is what we know. And this is what we project for these, but if something else were to come up this year, we wouldn't have to go back to the townspeople to ask for money because some other organization filed a complaint against the planning board.
Right. But would you want to specify for that Forest Hills location in some manner, or do you want to just keep it as vague as, yeah?
No.
If the planning board is working with the town administrator to come up with this amount, because that's the expected cost that they foresee to cover this, then I think we're safe there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, if it was some arbitrary number, then I would want to know,
Yeah.
how did we come to this, right? How do we?
Right.
So the only question I have on that would be, is it you guys then that differentiate between the normal professional versus they just start throwing everything at this 50?
No, yeah, so we can definitely take out the DI trust language and we would word it in a way that it's, you know, like court complaints.
Yeah, not just we called the lawyer for
Yes, exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And do we just limit it?
It seems that way.
Yes.
So,
That's where I think it's focused now,
right,
and I mean, again, I don't want to get in. Let me class get into legal strategy, but if any other, but that's why we would also include, so to be expended by the planning board. So the planning board would be the entity expending it, but it would be any. So like any legal and court related expenses filed against the planning board,
Right.
but we could also word it and make sure it's worded extremely carefully. So if there is a case filed against the planning board, but there are also relevant Dayton town officials actually named because the planning board is named in the litigation. And that any litigation also happens to name other relevant town officials. That would be something that would be covered by this article, if that makes sense.
Yeah, basically, if they just start, we're gonna sue the board of selectmen, we're gonna sue you, we're gonna sue the building inspector, we're gonna sue highway department.
So yeah, but because the original complaint really centers on the planning board.
Yeah.
And they just also may or may not.
Yeah.
Decide to take a scattershot approach, like there's many
Yeah.
plaintiffs we know do. That would be something covered.
Yeah, the only way I would reword this is just say, you know, regarding complaints filed against the planning board, town of Dayton.
Yep.
And relevant town officials. And just remove that DI trust too.
And that's a good.
Yeah. And it specifically says in the article, complaints.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it can't just be the planning board has a question for their legal counsel. That's coming out of their regular
Yeah.
professional and technical budget. Specifically
So
for
the fact that it
complaints.
has to be expended by the planning board, like the planning board is not gonna really nearly fund. The litigation of any other parties.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I guess would the motion be to edit the article or?
That.
It'll be on those guys.
Would be in the boards, so yeah, I mean, what I would suggest is we could. So yeah, if the board's willing, we could make a recommendation on the article now, so in terms of the funding. Then as part of the process, this whole warrant, so in the entirety, we'll go back to the final version of the warrant, we'll go back to the board of selectmen on Wednesday night for final approval. So like the final wordsmithing on how that happens could happen. So it can be approved by the selectmen on Wednesday night, if that works.
Any other questions on that?
That's a good point. Thank you, Robert.
Oh, I just piggybacked on Selectman Hull there.
So from us, you just need a recommendation on dollar
And the
raise and appropriate. So I will take a motion to raise and appropriate $50,000 for legal and related fees.
So moved.
For the planning board.
Seconded.
Seconded.
Do we? For the planning board.
yes,
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it.
I make a motion to raise and appropriate $50,000 to provide funding for legal and work-related expenses involving the planning board as referenced in Article 19.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
Tom, are you here for Main Street and the Briggs analysis or just? Okay. So the next article is Article 20. We're looking to, the recommendation is from free cash, $300,000 to fund reclamation, repaving and sidewalk construction on Main Street. Assuming that that's a small portion of it.
I was gonna say, didn't, because it wasn't in the regular budget requisitions, there was accounted for the project as well, correct? Was there any in the regular budget for highway and what drainer? No, none of that, it wasn't. Okay, so this is.
Is that the only portion that you're gonna get done in this year, or that's just what you need for, that other funding's not gonna cover?
The drainage has happened first. It should focus the drainage work.
yes, and we also, because drainage is covered by stormwater, like as an ARPA project request, this project was reviewed by capital. And how this $300,000 would be leveraged is an additional $250,000 in ARPA. So an ARPA drainage and so in stormwater. Plus, like it would also leverage against approaching chapter 90 as well. So so all in the Main Street project with the full reconstruction of the sidewalks. Had a projected cost around $2.1 million. So this would be the start. This 3,000 combined with the other funding sources this year would be the beginning of phasing. Start phasing that project in over the next 2.5, 3 years.
So I had this right, Mike. We're not gonna know if ARPA will fund this, right? At a town meeting, so we need to fund this.
Yes, and hope, yes.
You want to elaborate more on that?
Yes, so hopefully we anticipate that the $250,000 will be on top of the $300,000. So we'll be able to fund, so the drainage to upper, so and then it's really an initial down payment investment on the whole project. So the ARPA process through Bristol County, is a little bit cumbersome. And what we want to have a fail safe as well. So which is why we've asked for the 300,000 over the 250. So if something, God forbid, happens with the ARPA funding request, we have the drainage funding in hand, so we can keep moving. So we can keep moving with the initial parts of the project.
So we're raising the 300. Hopefully, we won't need it for the drainage because that will be covered by ARPA, but we have to wait and that way it's there. So if we get the ARPA, that 250 will go towards drainage and the 300 will be put towards the other pieces of the Main Street project.
Precisely, yes.
Back to the original question, the poles being moved now. Has to be ahead of the drainage work. Drainage work, some of the drainage goes under the sidewalk, that's why the drainage has to happen first. And we find that the road is too smooth, so we need to dig it out to put drainage in.
There you go.
My truck says otherwise, but that's okay. Lenny knows, Lenny knows.
2.1, is that just the town's cost, or is that both the town and the water?
That's just down.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And the sidewalk alone is coming around $1 million.
It's crazy. So in anticipation of the question, where are we planning on funding the rest?
So when we met, I forget what month it is now, but I think it's in February, when we discussed the pavement management plan.
Yeah.
And the additional funds that we would need to make available. We basically to stay current with the road conditions where they are now at, I think, a 71% rating. We identified an annual cost of $300,000 a year. So what we're proposing to do for the next 2 or 3 years, basically utilize that $300,000 and fund that $300,000 either through free cash or another source. So like all that until we fund the project. That is only part of it. We will, and I still believe as part of the structuring and phasing in, so like of this project too, we may have to look at our capital stabilization funding sources as well. Like at some point in this as well. But so as we go forward, because I mean, as we know, like with free cash never given, still like even that $300,000, there's no dedicated funding source for that.
Yeah.
So yes, so we are looking at that. We did in the last capital outlay meeting, we did also discuss bonding, but with all the challenges and liabilities we have coming down in 2025, even though we could technically probably fund the debt service now. Basically, there's no guarantees on anything for 25. So one of the things, and I do have to think it's a long shot, is once we know how we're going to get through FY25 and beyond, maybe we can go back out and look at borrowing. But that's a huge hypothetical right now based on so all the unknowns going into FY25.
Any questions up here on,
Nope.
you guys have any questions?
No, we're all set.
Okay. Take a motion,
Take a moment, and this is coming from free cash.
free cash.
Yeah.
Take a moment to appropriate $300,000 out of free cash to be appropriated towards the Main Street Road Construction Project as detailed in Article 20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it.
Make a motion to appropriate $300,000 from free cash to the Main Street reconstruction project as referenced in Article 20.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Pete Karen's aye.
Okay, move on to Article 21. Again, recommended from free cash, and it's for a study on alternatives for the closed bridge on Brick Street. Any questions on that?
How long has that bridge been out?
You're not reading that folder, I believe it's 87.
Why do we have to open it now?
So this is our alternative analysis. About planning on building a bridge. We,
Do we need to have that, that byway open?
right now you have 2 bridge streets with the bridge closed, that needs to be entertained in the future. Depending on which way the town goes with the analysis, final analysis.
If you determine that the bridge is going to stay closed, you rename the 2 streets. But rename one of the streets.
We have to, but you also need to entertain the turnaround, it's not on the side. It's
Right.
Part of the safety problem that's there. And we also have, the bridge is not being inspected or maintained at all right now, and you still have people crossing it as pedestrians.
Right.
So the analysis will determine, sometimes they'll go with the removal. And that's it, so there's nothing there. Or a pedestrian type bridge. The current structure goes probably into a building that's right there, so if you don't have enough roadway to put a modern day bridge there now anyways. So it's probably not gonna be a bridge. An automotive bridge.
Right.
So if the town people, so if you the pedestrian bridge, that's the direction we're going. Doesn't have to be built right now, but we wanna know where we're going with it.
So it's more a safety issue at this point because you do have pedestrians using it.
Repeat it. And that's gonna look ugly, and that's gonna be a different problem.
All right, thank you.
I will say that this has been brought before the capital outlay committee a couple of years ago. And we were looking at a $250,000 price tag. So it coming back at a
What a deal.
28,000 price tag is, we should act on it.
Just for the analysis.
Well, no, the 250 was to do some other things as well, but yeah.
I'm not proposing a bridge.
And that was just the engineering of the bridge, though, right? It wasn't for the construction of it.
Making sure.
Yeah.
A cheap bridge.
Yeah. Which,
The biggest problem that bridge is 21 feet wide. As a small bridge is 20 feet or smaller. There's a lot of money out there for small bridges. For 21 feet.
Can't you just get some topsoil and make it just put a soil on each side? Come on. No, I'm just kidding. No question. No question.
Don't sweep that.
Yeah.
You guys have any questions on it? Any other questions up here? Take a motion.
motion to recommend have a finance committee recommendation to move $28,000 from free cash for the Brick Street Bridge analysis as detailed in Article 21.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it.
Make a motion to appropriate $28,000 from free cash. Fund an alternative analysis of the Bridge Street Bridge as referenced in the article.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Repeat Karen's and I.
Article 22. Recommendation from the ambulance fund. $34,000 for one CPR compressor and accessories. Is that going on an ambulance or is that going?
Yes.
Okay,
It would be funded out of the ambulance.
yeah. All right. Robert, this came through capital.
Yeah, but it's ambulance funding, so we didn't.
Didn't really. Okay.
Yeah, because it has its own funding source.
Yep.
We typically are on board with making the recommendation.
Okay.
So. And yes, we did recommend this one.
Any questions on that?
No. I make a motion, we vote to approve funding out of the ambulance funds for $34,000 to be expended by the fire chief for the purchase of a CPR compressor and the associated accessories related to it too.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it.
I will make a motion to transfer $34,000 from the ambulance fund to be expended for the purchase of a CPR compressor as referenced in Article 22.
Second that.
Seconds on discussion. There was no discussion.
Well,
That's a big vote.
I just made the motion. We have to have a discussion.
Okay. We know how much is left in that ambulance?
If this one passes, they would be as of April 26th, 187,000.
After this is taken, yes,
Yes.
thank you.
That's
So no, that would be,
Before the, yes.
of 23.
Oh, that estimated,
yes,
okay, estimated end of year, 187.
in the retained revenue.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is the retained revenue?
It would be the 180,
Should be 187, right?
The 187.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
And overall,
So yeah, so right now, we're on track to take in for annual revenue about $700,000 in the ambulance
Yeah,
fund.
that's what I was trying-
Then we back out the approximately just so under 500,000. That we are appropriating the 380 in the operation for the operational budget. Plus, we actually have a low watermark here because we don't have a full ambulance payment. So this year, so we're gonna end with a high retained revenue than we did last year, but what we did last year was we draw back on our reliance. So on the ambulance fund by over $150,000. So we could guarantee that every year we'd have a retained revenue of about $200,000.
Last year we did that. Past that, so.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
Go to Article 23. And the recommendation is that this would be the remaining E and D money for $100,000. For installation of access controls and related school security and public safety upgrades. Like, do we know what they're planning on doing?
Yeah, so this is video security monitoring. So this is also access control where they can automate door locking. So frankly, one of the things, so they could have basically like video surveillance of public areas within the school, but also push at nights. So on a weekend with other people in the schools, they can make sure that they lock down different areas of the school. So essentially what happened in January with the clogging of the sinks and everything on the second floor doesn't happen again. So and if it does, they were able to capture it. So exactly who they're obviously that incident happened in restroom, so they're not gonna
You'll see who went into the restroom.
exactly from the outside.
Yeah. So the 100 is just for,
At the campus.
okay,
Is this the total amount of funding for that security, or is there another portion of that coming out of the school budget itself, the district budget?
I believe the total funding would be funded by us. For an E and D, like,
It's reasonable.
right, so like it is also under the regional agreement considered a capital improvement as well. So like, and that's like another reason why it would need to be funded strictly by the town.
Okay, thank you.
any questions on that?
I was just saying, if it's approved, when is it gonna be completed?
I don't have that answer, I can find out for you though.
Curious.
Selectmen, any questions on that?
No, Rob, thank you.
Take a motion.
I make a motion that the finance committee recommend the appropriation of $100,000 to be expended by the Dayton Rehoboth School District. But is it being dispelled by them, or is that the money that's already come? Oh, okay.
So this would be a transfer?
It's a transfer.
Yeah, we would end up with cutting the check to the school and then it's up to them to complete it.
Okay.
Just have them write us 2 checks and hand them on back.
Yeah, that's what it is.
For the purchase and installation of access controls related to school security and public safety upgrades to the Dayton Elementary School and Dayton Middle School as articulated in Article 23, excuse me.
Seconded.
And it's a transfer from. It's the way we want to say it. Okay.
Free cash.
It's a transfer from available. funds.
Okay, so
It's like a little bit of mundo.
Because E and D has to come back into available funds and then we're moving it from available.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, we're basically transferring from the school operating budget to the school capital budget.
Okay.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Nice have it.
I'll make a motion to appropriate from available funds the sum of $100,000. Provide security and access controls for the Dayton Elementary School, Dayton Middle School campus as referenced in Article 23.
Those in favor? Peter Karen's an aye.
Yeah, no.
Just as a follow-up on that, I just heard back from the superintendent, those security improvements would be made this summer.
Great, awesome. That was the main reason I was asking.
Transfer from PEG access, you need our recommendation on that?
Yes, it is a money article.
Okay. So Article 24 is would be a transfer from available funds from the cable fund of $60,000 for upgrades. Just basically, they're spending Comcast money on their equipment.
Yeah. What was the total in that fund right now? It was quite large, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they haven't spent money in years.
Yeah.
Since they-
Is the way that,
Yeah.
is the way that fund's written where that money has to be used towards,
Yeah.
like the cable news and
Yeah.
stuff like that?
Yes.
So one of the things also.
Like, what are we gonna- That's so much.
So yes, one of the things, I mean, which like begs the question, if we have that revenue. Like these wires, all these wires and pods need to go. Number one, but also two, one of the things that's been helpful, though we need to do more. So yeah, the cable fund has been really helpful, like in funding our Zoom technology as well.
Okay.
Because when it funds our Zoom technology, so yeah, it does save on labor as well.
Yeah.
Which we do have like a staffing shortage, but then we can use those and we play those things on YouTube and Channel 9 as well, so it all works.
That'd be something to look for next year is what else we can use that for, because if that's just gonna keep building and they're not,
So at some point though, that revenue is gonna dry up though,
Okay,
with everyone cutting the cord.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, that was it. That was just,
Any other questions on that?
No.
Take a motion.
Motion of the finance committee recommends the transfer of $60,000 from the PEG access account to the cable committee account as detailed in Article 24.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it?
I'll make a motion to transfer from available funds the sum of $60,000 from the cable commission to upgrade technologies referenced in Article 24.
Second that,
All those in favor?
I,
Peter Karen's an aye.
That's the last of the,
Those are the last of the funding articles.
yeah.
We do have, I believe, Article 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then 25. That need to be recommended by the select.
They're done.
So yeah, you guys want to adjourn? I don't want.
I did have one question. Do you guys want to go ahead or do you want us to wrap up my question?
Whatever.
Yeah, ask me.
My question is just from Capital Committee. Is there anything else that I know?
Wait till the end.
That you guys are seeing as gonna be coming up, hitting us in the near future?
Wow, talk about a loaded question. So this is tip of the iceberg. There are requests out there. Obviously not included in here is our cruiser from the police. The highway department has, I don't even want to call it outdated equipment. It's antiquated and falling apart equipment that they have saved this town hundreds of thousands of dollars by keeping it in force and available, that they just can't find parts for them anymore. I think there's about 3 or 4 vehicles that they just don't have get parts for. There are other things out here from Parks and Rec. There are things from the Board of Health, for our new attendant building at the transfer station. We have feasibility studies that we have funded for the fire station, for the highway department, right?
We haven't
We
funded that yet, but it's out there.
haven't funded that yet. But
It's coming back.
schools can, so those are just studies, right? So when the study comes back and it says, here's kind of your best three options, we're not talking about, $100,000 or something, we're talking about millions of dollars. And we also have the BP assessment that will be starting to hit our books in the not too distant future. So yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things that are out here. There's, you look at the library, right? We've essentially funded the improvements to the building itself. We still have to furnish it. Okay, and there are thoughts on there in that regard for something like that. Of performing some type of fundraising activity. So that the townspeople actually own, a component of contributing to the success of that building. But yeah, I believe we have roughly $9 million worth of outstanding requests. That doesn't count school assessments.
Is this why FY25 is talked about with dread? Is that like
The lion's share, so the BP.
the assessment starts?
Project, 250,000 hits this year, which affected our available excess levy capacity.
Yep.
But thankfully, we were able to adjust some things for revenue so that out of our available new revenues, I think we had about $1.1 million, 907,000 were so like education capital related costs. We had some room in our excess levy capacity and also ability to adjust some revenues, but next year our assessment for BP goes from 250 up to over 650.
So.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt yours.
No, and we have some other things out there too, so. The sewer department needs a new power plant pump. You're looking at $500,000 for that. We think we're gonna be able to get some funding through the county through ARPA for that. Pleasant Street Bridge replacement, that's another $500,000. We're hoping that we can get the state grant for that.
That's evolving. That's literally evolving as we speak.
Yeah. But those are things that if we don't get those grants, if we don't get that funding, that we'll need to figure out how we're gonna come up with that.
Mhm.
So the answer is, yeah, there's I hate to say it this way, there's no shortage of requests. But that's, we found out that our police department is supposed to be replacing firearms every 5 years, I believe.
What do you think?
3, and they're carrying firearms that are 8 years old.
Is that that's the patrol firearms in here for
Yes.
17-ish?
Yep,
And the reason for replacement in 5 years,
it's mandated by their union, I believe, as part of it, and then there's also.
Yeah.
And then there's also state regulations that need to be, these are all things that are kind of out of our control that,
right, mandates.
yeah.
So yeah, the same thing with police as well, at all the. I want to get this back, all the analog and switching the digital. And so.
Yep.
So all that equipment's becoming obsolete. So that all these things are things that are completely outside of our control in many aspects. And we're tasked with adapting and dealing with it and funding it.
You haven't mentioned the fire station situation or the Dayton Elementary, Dayton Middle School project, which is going to SBAB for their approval to start the process.
They just put in, excuse me, they just put in an application to see if we can get SBA.
Beyond,
MSB.
the open process.
Correct.
That's the initial, and the next will be the formation of a building feasibility committee. What technical project? It'll be feasibility of making a decision, new or additions. And whatever they decide, then over the building.
Did the infrastructure bill that passed last year on the federal level open up any additional funding sources that we could take advantage of?
Yes, it actually included $2.75 million for the Pleasant Street Bridge. So that was a huge get, but what Robert was actually mentioning, so when we initially applied for reach out to Congressman Auchincloss for that funding of $2.75 million. So the inflationary cost then, so when we got like a 25% the design information back, that cost went from the 2.75 to the 3.34 million. So now there's that gap.
Jeez.
I mean, like, we can't, we're trying to chase every, so like every outside funding source, and even when we do, even when we're successful,
Because of the length of time it takes. to-
still, it comes back and bites us.
Just from a short, pulling out any road projects or bridge projects. Tom's looking for two truck, fall wise, Tom's looking for two truck, cruiser, radios. Firearms, that's,
I don't know where we're gonna be at with the Pleasant Street Bridge at that point.
yeah. Okay,
But yeah, that is basically, those are basically the priorities for
that was all I was looking for.
already.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. Tom's trucks are expensive.
He likes the big. Tom, what is the difference? You've got 1 ton and then just dump truck.
So we're finding one ton's too small.
Okay, so I figured the dump truck is a bigger,
The truck that's on order now was just under the CEO.
okay,
I'd like to keep one or two of them in case we have a long-term storm with non-CEO drivers and something, get something done. So the 1 ton's really off the table.
okay.
It's the dump truck.
Yes, and I think Mike already crossed it off. The other truck here is what's on order
Head over the auction.
from Black Annual.
Oh,
Oh,
no, this is future. These are the future trucks, not the one that's on order.
Right. Correct, but I ordered a truck last year, didn't have it.
Oh, yeah.
We're fine, well, hopefully latter part of this year, the escalation is gonna slow down, but historically, it could be 5 to 15% markup when you're looking a year ahead. It's way beyond 50%.
Yeah, it's way worse now. Yeah.
There's no way, but
all right. Does anybody else?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
One of the things, like, I mean, like, it's, so sobering as this whole thing is, I mean, from what I know, like, I'm not really sure, like, so a group conversation like this about all of our needs has always happened, like, the way it's happening now, and I think it's healthy, so we're all, so as we're anticipating all these things, we're anticipating them together, and like, I just think that that's healthy in terms of we're all sort of operating and planning on the same expectations at this point.
Any other questions up here?
No,
And I will take a motion for adjournment of the finance committee meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
second?
All in favor?
All right.
Those, let's have. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good till town meeting now?
Yeah, we'll schedule.
So we just have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I think 25 to have the selecting recommendations on.
There was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
25. And they did. I just want to make sure. I do article. An article. Article 6.
They didn't do anything on that. Oh.
I do like an article 6 then as well.
Article 6.
Yes. And yeah, that's the appropriation, and from the sewer enterprise fund. Yeah, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Then 25.
Yes.
Yes, sir. That's what the budget is.
Yeah. Oh, 2 and 1, yes. Okay, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 25. So you want to do first?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Two pretty perfunctory to authorize the board to appoint all necessary town officials.
Yeah.
In town committees.
Town officials, yeah. Make a motion,
Appoint.
town officials. Oh, I didn't scroll down. It's just a small one.
So it doesn't prescribe who the town officials are, it just gives the board authority to appoint them.
I make a motion to authorize the Board of Selectmen to appoint all necessary town officials and town committees not otherwise provided or by statute or act thereon. That's referenced in Article 2.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I,
And Peter Karen's an aye.
6. Yes. And that would just be a recommendation.
Yeah.
To draw from the sewer enterprise fund. To allocate the sewer receipts. To fund the sewer department.
Motion to see if the town will vote, or do I say that the board of selectmen recommend?
Yeah, that's really all we need to do.
Okay, a motion that the board of selectmen recommends to see if the town will vote to approve following sums to be extended under the direction of the Board of Sewer Commissioner, the operation and maintenance of the sewer enterprise of fiscal year 2024, take action therefore. Thank you.
second,
All those in favor?
I,
And Peter Karen's an aye.
Articles 7 and 8 are actually interrelated. There's a proposed addition of like 4 new revolving funds to the town general bylaw. With the addition of those 4 new revolving funds to the bylaw, then Article 8 would set the spending limits and parameters for each of those in the existing revolving funds. And this is for parks, parks and recreation. The PD would establish a youth and community police engagement fund.
Transportation.
The transfer station's not there yet.
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
Then we have a firearms training Revolving fund, so, yeah, so I have the police do training at the transfer station. So they don't have to in the towns. Yep, and then the DQ approves the usage fund to offset the fuel and maintenance costs.
Okay.
I motion that the Board of Selectmen recommend to see if the town will vote to amend the town bylaw article 36. Section 5, authorize revolving funds to add and establish the following revolving funds. Do I do as in Article 7?
Yes, it's all right.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
This is why you learn your Newman.
Roman.
Oh my God, this is over. This is gonna be like that. Okay, so, oh, is it just another one similar to the other ones? Okay, so I recommend that,
Excuse me, Chris, we should have to read each one.
can I just say that the board of
As
selectmen,
Recommended proposed.
Yeah.
oh, okay, so I can say the board of selectmen recommend Article 8 is
As
written.
proposed.
Okay. I
I mean, it was fine, the one.
you can see me. The board, I make a motion that the board of selectmen recommend Article 8 as written. Ready to add anything else? Oh,
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
Right? Would. Yeah, so, one of the things, we've had a lot of articles that, so in the past, was really restated. The Mass General Law, we've tried to clean it up this year, actually with the help and recommendation of Brenda Herbeck, who was actually really helpful with that. But with what we're doing, so with Main Street and what the Main Street projects involve, we wanted to leave all the roadway and highway department articles in place. We know those articles have worked for what we've needed them to do in the past with regards to eminent domain, different types of taking and easements. So like we left those all the same until we at least get through the Main Street. Okay. So yeah, so Article 9, 10, and yeah, I'm sorry, Articles 9 and 10 would deal with that.
Okay.
I motion that the board of selectmen recommend Article 9 as written.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Peter Karen's an aye.
Can we go right into 10? I motion that the board of selectmen recommend Article 10 as written.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye. 11.
Article 11 would clean up this the tax exemption process. Like in terms of how it's written, how it is conveyed to town meeting, and also how we apply the cost of living adjustments that set us some more, in the board of assessors has been working on.
I make motion that the board of selectmen recommend Article 11 as written.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
9 and aye.
Then we have recommendations at this point. We don't, as I mentioned earlier, we do not need recommendations on Article 13 and 14. Those are the CPC recommendations. So then that takes us to Article 25.
Yeah.
That is the restated and amended regional agreement between Dayton, Rehoboth, and the Dayton Rehoboth Regional School District. And this language models exactly the Rehoboth annual town meeting warrant article language as well. So it's all good. And basically the changes are they needed to like update the names of their buildings, and also we changed the current regional agreement has the budgets due in February from the school district to the town. We will move that to March.
They don't have enough time. to put that in order.
Oh, it's like, you know, what question. I'm gonna- Alright, can I make a motion?
Sure.
I motion that the board of selectmen recommend Article 25 as written.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Peter Karen's an aye.
26 is a citizens petition The board traditionally doesn't weigh in on citizens petitions.
Right.
And then Article 27 is that to deal with any other town business, and the board doesn't typically make a recommendation on that. So.
That was, guys have any questions for him?
I just wanna really thank everyone. Serena has been incredible.
Oh, yeah, I know.
This whole process, we've really streamlined it. Like, this process is so much cleaner. So even though I had to, instead of changing my budget at the 11.5 hour, it's just so it's night and day. Oh, you're better than the last 2 years.
Sure.
And I mean,
Yeah.
so it's a work in progress, but it's, yeah.
It's 10 times better than what it was. Serena, he mentions you 10 times a day when I'm talking.
I know, I'm trying to get. But I do appreciate it, thank you.
No, like it's so like everything we do though, like honestly, like I mean, I know. Like it's so cohesive, frankly, exactly what I always envisioned. Like all of our work being, I mean, like at first it didn't exactly happen that way, but now it's, yeah, so we have a lot of stuff in front of us, but you know, we're doing the work, so we're doing it together, it's
Motion to.
I'll make a motion to.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Just one other thing.
Oh, sure.
I put out a new signature authorization designation
Oh,
form.
I didn't say.
Nicole was elected to the board, just to restructure if you wanted to. So since the Municipal Modernization Act, you're able to designate a primary signature, where instead of having the majority sign warrants and payroll, you can just designate one person, and then you can have a secondary.
Okay,
And then beyond that, we would go back to the majority 2/3. So like, for example, today, we didn't have Nicole previously, so I did require 2/3 vote. But if you guys redo the sheet, you can discuss who you want to be primary for payroll, alternative payroll, primary for the warrants, like the weekly warrants,
right,
and then an alternate as
okay.
well.
I signed it today in the office, is this a new?
So you just signed the warrants that were being paid today? I presume?
No, I signed this form.
So it actually needs to be done at a meeting. I didn't
Okay.
realize you signed it
Sure.
earlier in the office. The three of you just have to discuss and agree on who will be the primary.
Right.
So everybody signs the top and then you designate it. Thank you.
What's the meter printer you get?
Should we get chance? And we do this every year?
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
You take one, I take one? It's the alternate?
yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
But
Payrolls and warrants.
warrants are done on Wednesday,
Yes.
and payroll has to be done by when?
The same thing Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh,
Why?
Maybe
It's a bad
Monday,
one.
Wednesday.
you mind?
Yeah, why are we having us all?
Okay, no,
So Mike, I was explaining to them about the 2,000 for the employee break room,
Yes,
if that's still a go.
absolutely, yeah, no, I talked to Jim about that tonight as well,
Okay.
and yeah, it's all good. Sorry.
And if we also, I believe Mr. Mullen was on the last sheet as, the last alternative.
Okay,
Yeah, just, because he's readily available.
Sure.
Basically.
yeah,
So we can add that.
That's agreeable.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't think I've ever had to sign for that, but just in the event, we don't like to put up payroll.
oh,
Right.
no, but
Technically, I would have to hold everything.
Thank you. So, no motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
42.